Do some proper journalism.
I think you should answer my question.
I am. The fact that you believe that's the path just shows you've done absolutely zero research.
They experience
How many?
more abuse.
How many?
Enough.
Enough.
Let me tell you about some of his tactics that I think he used there, and I'm wondering if he took this out of the Trump playbook. In this video, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into dissecting Andrew Tate's most recent interview with the BBC. I'm going to go into detail about some of the tactics that I think that he consciously used to mercilessly defeat his opponent. So make sure to stick around until the end, because I guarantee you the tactics that I point out, you'll be able to spot as the video goes on. And also, if I miss anything, leave it in the comments. Let's get into the clips.
Andrew Tate,
Hello.
you've agreed to do an interview with the BBC today.
Yep.
The material is going to be published on television, on radio, online.
Perfect.
We are doing an interview with you because you're facing some very serious allegations.
Correct.
Rape, human trafficking.
Yep.
And also because there's a great deal of concern about the things you say and the impacts that they have on young people, on women.
I don't think the concern's about the things I say. I think the concern is for the level of influence I have and the reach I have. I would argue that a lot of the things that are already out there inside of the legacy media and the matrix as a whole are far more damaging than the things I say.
It's the concern about the influence you have being a harmful influence, but let's start with the allegations.
Not necessarily a harmful influence. The fact that I'm massively influential over the youth, and I understand that, but it's my influence as a whole which people are afraid of, not necessarily the things I say.
Let's start with the allegations. Have you raped anybody?
Absolutely not.
Have you trafficked anybody?
Absolutely not.
Exploited any women for
Absolutely
money?
not.
But you have admitted using emotional manipulation to get women to work in the webcam industry for you.
No. Firstly, let's begin let's start at the beginning. I'm facing charges. The first one you mentioned, the rape one's already been thrown out by a judge because there's no evidence of it. Secondly, it's very difficult for me to sit here and have a very frank and honest conversation with you while we're in the territory of Romania about a legal case that's going on within Romania. I have to protect myself. I've agreed to do an interview with you, and I want to be as honest with you as possible. But I can't incriminate myself in any way, and I have to be very careful with what I talk about.
So firstly, let's address the hand gesture here. This hand gesture is widely considered now to be Tate's hand gesture, and it's a symbol that people are adopting en masse to try and copy him without realizing what it actually means. This is actually considered a sacred hand gesture, and it derives from an ancient Japanese esoteric Buddhist practice called Kujikiri, or the 9 hand seals. They're considered esoteric or occult because they are meditation practices that are designed to purify and focus the mind of the person using them. Each of the 9 hand symbols are associated with a certain psychological and spiritual energy, which can be invoked by the ninjutsu practitioner when he needs that quality for a specific task. And this is largely associated with meditation and enlightenment, but was also supposedly used by ninjas and samurais to harness the untapped energy of the mind for success in battle. The symbol that Tate uses is the Rin gesture. It's the root symbol and the catalyst for all others and represents power, strength of mind and body and spirit, and was traditionally used during preparation or training for battle. Now, the reason why I think that he's conscious of this is because Tate's Twitter handle used to be Way of Wudan, which in short refers to a mountain range in ancient China where one learns the art of ancient martial arts and Taoist philosophy. And he and his brother Tristan actually quite often invoke Eastern philosophy, and they're very accomplished martial artists themselves. So this is pretty deep. Tate on his website even has a series of stories that were written at the height of his fighting career that detail the trials and tribulations and wisdom that he absorbed from his time under Master Po. And I'd recommend checking them out because they're actually rather beautifully written and quite profound and philosophical. I'll leave them in the bio. So I'm not trying to say that he is some ancient soul or some mystic being who really did live 5,000 years atop Wudan Mountain. But what I am saying is that this gesture that he does is very intentional and meaningful. It's not merely a comfortable way to place your hands, and it's not just a symbol that is reserved by Tate. It's an ancient symbol of power, vitality, spiritual purity, enlightenment, and also battle readiness. Now let's get into the part where Tate really starts to take control of this interview.
I'd argue the fact that people who've been investigated to the level I've been investigated to, if you were to take the average man on the street and investigate his entire life for 14 months, call everyone who's ever known him, and vilify him in the media and encourage people to come forward for money, and you're trying to contact every ex-girlfriend that's ever had.
Would come forward and accuse those people of rape and accuse those
I
people
think
of
that you would have a lot more.
manipulation.
I think you would have a lot more flack than I've got. I'm actually such a nice person that I've never had anyone come at
spoken
me.
to somebody since your arrest who says exactly those things, that with you it's all manipulation, there's an ulterior
Is this
motive,
Sophie?
everything
Is this
you've
Sophie? Oh, it's Sophie. The fake name, no face,
done. I
no
was so
the story
intent
that was
on wanting
invented.
to please him and wanting him to be happy that I was just kind of, yeah, okay, do whatever you want.
And what has she
That's
accused?
what
Has she accused me of a crime? This imaginary Sophie?
She's making the point that there is
Has she accused me of a crime?
emotional or psychological manipulation.
I've asked you a question, and I've allowed you into my house.
I'm asking you a question.
Correct. You're not the boss here because I've allowed you into my house
I'm asking you the question.
correctly, and I'm telling you.
You get to decide the answers.
No, we're equal here. I've allowed you into my house. You don't come here with a position of authority. I'm doing you the favor as legacy media, giving you relevance by speaking to you. And I'm telling you now, this Sophie, which the BBC has invented, which there's no face of, nobody knows who she is.
The
and
BBC did not invent.
of course not. And because you never invent anything. And she's not filed criminal charges against me. What are we talking about here?
Guys, if you enjoy watching debates as a sport like I do and watching me break down these videos, then make sure to chuck a like on the video, help me spread this message, and subscribe to the channel and turn on all those notification bells so that you never miss a beat. Back to the clips.
I know who I am, I know what I've done, and I know the truth, and I know that I'll be found innocent of this attack. The reason I'm being attacked is because of my massive influence, not because I've ever hurt anybody. And for you to sit here and say that everybody around you is saying you're innocent, but that doesn't matter because the state will say they're victims, and they're just going to grab everybody you know and call everybody victims, even if they say they're not, and try and put you in jail. You are describing a matrix attack. You're not describing human trafficking.
I'm describing women who are going to court to accuse you of rape and human trafficking.
We will see what women go.
Can I
We will
finish,
see
please?
what women go to court at
Can
the
I
end of this
finish,
trial.
please?
We'll see which women go
Can
to
I
court.
finish, please?
We'll see which women go to court.
So this was the part where Tate really started to stamp his authority in quite a powerful and satisfying way. And I feel like he kind of even let her off a little bit easy here and was a little bit late to establish this dominance. And I'm wondering how much he knew about her tactics and what they were going to come at him with, but I'll talk about that more soon. And I know that this interview was a massive fail and it wasn't what people wanted it to be or thought it was going to be, but I believe that this particular part was very interesting to watch because it was one of the only times where it gave Tate the chance to speak about what's been really happening to him from his own perspective and in a way that seemed rather human and from the heart, if you will. And he describes this as a matrix attack, which is obviously the nomenclature that he's been using to signify a coordinated attack from very powerful people on him. And also how they've contacted thousands of women in his life and tried to get somebody to roll on him, and this is the best that they've come up with. And I won't go into it now, but if you're familiar with the details of the case, and you'll know that it's very underwhelming. And if you are somebody who trusts the system and you think that those things don't really happen, then I would advise you to just have a look at where else it's happening right now. Look at Donald Trump, for example. Alvin Bragg, who is a George Soros-funded DA from New York, has pressed charges against Trump because they couldn't get him with Russiagate or they couldn't get him with any of the other scandals that they have manufactured. Look at Julian Assange, who poked the bear, and all of a sudden, guess what? There's a grape charge against him from Sweden. What do you know? And of course, it was dropped. One of Stalin's henchmen once said, "Show me the man and I will show you the crime." And that's all I'll say about the case while I'm still residing here in Romania. Now, the next part is a fascinating chess match between a grandmaster and somebody who has just had their first day at preschool chess club. Watch the questions that she asks here and then watch how Tate responds to them, and then see if you can ascertain what his tactic is, and then I'll give my observations after.
I'm asking you about the testimony you've given on your website and the testimony
No,
women have given
you've
about
printed something off that you found on Reddit, and you're going to sit here and say that that makes me a bad person. And I'm saying that you should know better as a journalist and do some proper journalism. Let's investigate the fact that
I think
thousands.
you should answer my questions
I am.
properly.
I am.
You've got children's organisations in the UK, you've got rape organisations in the UK, you've got the police naming you by name as someone who has a harmful influence on children and on women in the UK and elsewhere because of the things you say, because of the way you present gender relations, the way you say men should treat women.
That's very upsetting. And the reason that's very upsetting is because I know that's not true. I'm genuinely a good person. I believe my impact on the world is positive. In fact, if you were to read the comment section of nearly any video I post, especially by the legacy media, 95% of the population agree with me. Most people know that the things I say are positive. Legacy media as a whole has lost all its credibility in the last 3 to 4 years. Nobody believes it. And it's a shame, it's a massive shame that the BBC come here and try and push and purport this idea that I'm a dangerous person.
I'm
anti-drugs. I've never pushed drugs or any, I'm anti-drugs, I'm anti-violence. The UK is facing a knife crime epidemic, and they're going to sit here and say, that I'm the most dangerous man in the UK.
You have said you're the most dangerous man in the world.
I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world.
You've also said that a woman's intimate parts belong to her male partner. I'm glad you find that funny.
I find it funny that you're sitting here saying that I've said I'm the most dangerous man in the world, and you believe that's. When did I say that?
I'm asking if you believe it.
No, you said you're the most dangerous man in the world. Is that some kind of proof that I'm dangerous? Am I Dr. Evil now? I'm telling you that it's very upsetting that you're going to sit here and that certain organizations in the world are going to try and pretend that I'm the biggest force of evil on earth when I'm genuinely a force for good. I'm genuinely a force for good. And the reason they're doing this is because of the massive influence I have over the youth, and they don't like that I'm telling the youth to think outside of the matrix and ignore things like the BBC, which come here with loaded questions and false narratives and try and paint innocent people as guilty.
You've said women's intimate parts belong to their male partner.
I said that if a woman marries a man, she takes his last name and traditionally the man gives her away. I've been pushing traditional religious beliefs because I'm a religious man, and traditional beliefs in regards to marriage, which everybody accepted 10 to 15 years ago.
So
that's not a crazy conspiracy theory. If you're going to sit here and say that me believing a woman should take a man's last name in marriage makes me the most dangerous man in the world, then you're just going to lose even more credibility than the BBC's already lost in the last 4 to 5 years. If that's your point, if that's your narrative you want to push, good luck.
Men should be able to sleep with a lot of women outside marriage. That doesn't sound very religious or
That's not what I said they should be able to. I said a lot of high-value men, a lot of rich men do it. And then we discussed at length on podcasts why rich men do it. And we also discussed why women decide to be unfaithful. It's not a gendered argument. We discussed unfaithfulness as a whole. What are the reasons and motivations for men, and what are the reasons and motivations for women? Because you have no time to actually, watch my content, because you have no time to actually watch my content at length and understand what I'm saying, you just come here with a small snippet which we provided to you on a piece of paper.
Times doesn't make it true.
No, completely. You don't have a clue what I say or what I talk about. You never watch my content. You have small pieces of paper, small clips on a piece of paper, and you're trying to pretend I've said evil things. And then you're going to say I'm the most dangerous man in the world, which is truly laughable.
You said that, not me.
Okay. Do you believe I'm the most dangerous man in the world, Lucy?
I'm not answering your questions.
Well, then we need to change the dynamic of this interview because, and I'll make this clear, I allowed you into my home. I'm doing you a favor, giving you the first interview I'm giving to the public. You don't come here with a position of authority. You're not the police. I don't respect the BBC. I don't know you. You do not come here with a position of authority over me. We are equals. We are people. We're citizens of the world, and we sit here as equals. And I see you as my equal, and if you ask me questions, I can ask you questions back. For you to come here and sit down and pretend you're the Gestapo and that you don't have to answer my questions is disingenuous because I don't owe you anything.
Asking questions and you answer.
But I don't owe, no,
however you want.
This is a conversation, and I don't owe you any degree of authority over me. So let's make that clear. And that doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or from the BBC or the CNN. I'm here to answer your questions and be honest with you and do you a favor.
Great.
And I'm doing you a favor. But you come here with loaded questions. You're trying to paint a narrative of me which is negative.
I'm asking you about
and that's fine.
You've said that people are concerned about.
And that's fine. But you're not going to sit here and say you don't answer my questions because you're not above me.
I found that part extremely interesting, and I'll tell you why. You see, Tate was a chess player as a kid, and then throughout his youth, he was a fighter. And those things are actually very, very similar. Fighting and chess are both tactical battles. And now that he's done with fighting, it seems to me like debates and verbal combat is sort of the new way in which he's channeling his competitiveness. And I've seen him evolve, and I've been covering these interviews on my channel from when he was on Piers Morgan, which he did okay with, but not his best performance. And then the Vice interviews where he did really well, but he let them cut it up and he made that mistake. And now he's put those two together and he's done a much better debate performance, and he's actually gone and recorded it himself. So it feels like the whole game plan is starting to play out. And from somebody who watches debates as a sport like I do, I am fascinated to see his next debate. But let me tell you about some of his tactics that I think he used there, and I'm wondering if he took this out of the Trump playbook. In recent times, and particularly in this interview, whenever he's asked certain questions, he tends to utter the phrases of, "I have a positive impact on the world."
I'm genuinely a force for good. I am a good positive influence for the world.
Or "I am a positive influence on the youth," or "my influence is net positive. Rather than vehemently defending things that he may or may not have said in the past and getting into these stupid little semantic arguments with disingenuous journalists, he will take what they say, trivialize it, flip the narrative into something positive that he is doing in the world, and then say something to paint either the journalist or the organization in a negative light. He knows that they're going to come at him and try and paint him in a bad light with all of these stupid little arbitrary examples from his past. So by doing this, he gets to take the narrative, flip it, make it a positive one for himself, and then manifest that positivity into the universe. And I've seen Trump do similar things. Trump uses the power of repetition to extreme effect by giving people nicknames like Crooked Hillary, for example, and repeating them all the time until it becomes a reality. And whenever he's asked a question about something negative that he's done or said, he will then just turn it around. And rather than getting into an argument about what he may or may not have said, he will say, "I was the best president ever. The economy was so great under my presidency, etc., etc." Repetition is actually a very, very effective subconscious psychological tactic that you can use in your life as well. Furthermore, what makes me a bit more sure of this is that Tate has actually been helping out a kid called Mizzy from the UK who's been running into people's houses and doing all kinds of stupid things with the PR nightmare that he's having. And some text messages got leaked between the two where Andrew said to say in the media that "I'm sorry for what I've done, I'm seeking guidance and getting closer to my parents and closer to God," and also to just repeat himself. And these leaked messages show that Andrew Tate is actually giving that insight of repetition to this kid. Moreover, Tate is also demonstrating the way of Wudan in this interview by staying nice and cool, calm and collected. And the presenter is just having this manifestly visceral reaction to Tate throughout the entire interview. And it may just be the lighting, but I actually think that she goes red. And I'm pretty sure I saw some steam coming out of her ears. And he was so easily able to trigger her by saying things like, "You should do some proper journalism." And she just took the bait, hook, line and sinker.
Do some proper journalism. Let's investigate the fact that
I think
thousands...
you should answer my question.
I am.
But the most masterful part of this is certainly what he does with her questions. And she firstly doesn't catch what he's doing, so obviously doesn't have an answer. And secondly, she does not even have a slice of the wit or wherewithal to be able to go toe-to-toe with him in a verbal exchange. So she just has to look at her notes and then just resort to the next little excerpt that she's got. And the next bit is just even worse, and he just tears her to shreds again.
It's the comments you make that are leading people to say things like
Absolute garbage.
National organisations who are saying that are blaming you for increasing levels of misogyny. Schools that are saying they are having increased incidents of girls being attacked, of female teachers being harassed.
If that was
by
true,
pupils,
if that,
because of you and your teaching.
well,
influence.
that's absolute garbage. I have never, ever encouraged a student to attack a teacher, male or female, ever. I preach hard work, discipline. I'm an athlete. I preach anti-drug. I preach religion. I preach no alcohol. I preach no knife crime. Every single problem with modern society, I'm against. I'm teaching young men to be disciplined, to be diligent, to listen, to train, to work hard, to be exactly like me, with no criminal record, never even yet charged in this 14-month Matrix investigation. And I'm saying that if men grew up like me, which are hardworking and diligent and some emotional control and stoic, we're gonna have a better society, not a worse society. To sit here and say that schools in England, which is a failing nation, which has knife crime going through the roof, violence going through the roof, men's mental health going through the roof, and they're going to all blame me because I appeared on the internet 1 year ago, is disingenuous. It's disingenuous. And also,
financial success,
correct.
with a Bugatti and a cigar, but it comes with a side order of misogyny.
How does having a Bugatti and a cigar come with misogyny?
Because it's all mixed together in what you teach. You teach that a woman, if a woman comes home and accuses you of cheating, you should hit her with a machete, shove her off.
Is that what I teach?
That's what you say.
No, if you actually watch the clip, it will be about the woman attacking me with a machete. As usual, you've not watched the video, taken out of context, flipped it, and attempted to attack me with a small excerpt. Let me tell you something, Lucy. I'm sure you're a very nice person. I'm sure you're a fantastic person. But if I were to take everything you've ever said online and just take small excerpts out of context, I could make you look like a misogynist. I guarantee it. In fact, I might actually do that. And then you're going to sit here and say, "Oh shit, I'm a misogynist because my clips have been taken out of context." If you refuse to watch anything at length and understand it, then that's what's going to happen.
The National Police Chiefs League for Violence Against Women, the NSPCC, Rape Crisis, Safer Schools, they are all naming you as being behind an epidemic of misogyny, even amongst primary school children.
The idea that I made primary school children misogynistic because I own a nice car. Is that your argument?
It's the misogyny that comes along with it.
Oh, owning a nice car is misogynist.
No, it's the misogyny that comes along with it.
How does misogyny come along with owning a nice car?
Because you have an image of financial
I'm glad you're
success.
answering my questions now. We finally got the dynamic.
You have an image of financial
She's answering my
success.
questions as she should.
Excuse me. You have an image of financial success, but it comes along with attitudes towards women that are really problematic.
My attitudes towards women is that women should be protected and provided for, and I've said that at length. In fact, I've said that over 50 times online, you never mention it. I say that my girlfriend doesn't have to work unless she wants to, I take care of her, I die to protect a woman. I've talked about how I've stood up and faced a knife to protect a woman.
What can you say here? This is a complete and utter demolition. Like he said, the UK has a lot bigger issues to worry about in terms of the rising crime in London and other places than Andrew Tate videos. I lived in London for 3 years, and when I was there, it was a weekly occurrence that there was gangs of youths running around and throwing acid in people's faces and robbing them. They have ridiculous amounts of stabbings and violent crimes, and what are the police doing about it? And to our point about misogyny and the Bugatti, I mean,
Correct.
With a Bugatti and a cigar, but it comes with a side order of misogyny.
how embarrassing. It's literally like they took a random Karen off the street who watches too much CNN and got her to try and debate him with literally zero knowledge of the situation. It's almost unbelievable that this was done by the BBC. I mean, a Bugatti with a side of misogyny. What the hell? And I won't play the whole thing because nobody has the stomach for it, but let's look at some of the final highlights, including what Tristan says to Andrew behind the camera, which you may have missed. And then I'll give my final thoughts.
And my obligation as a man is to protect and provide for females. Everything I'm talking about is traditional gender roles, which 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago, would not be considered outlandish, would not be considered crazy, would not be considered dangerous or misogynistic. The world has changed, and a lot of people haven't changed with the world. Please understand there's a lot of women at home watching this right now who like the idea of their man sticking up for them, protecting them, and providing for them. And just because the world has gone crazy and the legacy media has gone crazy, most people at home are still relatively sane. And these are the people who are going to write on the comments that Andrew isn't saying anything that's outlandish.
When you make controversial statements, it attracts people to follow you, and then you direct them to your website where they pay you a monthly fee to learn how to be like you. And so the more controversial statements you make, the more money you get.
The fact that that's the path you've outlined to one, my online university, and two, my presence on the internet, the fact that you believe that's the path just shows you've done absolutely zero research. Genuinely zero research.
Okay, so how many of the people who sign up for Hustlers University come to you through your social media?
Genuinely zero research.
How many of the people who sign up for Hustlers University come to you through your social media where you direct them to the website?
And Lucy, I encourage you to go out there, do some genuine research, watch my videos, of course, watch my videos at length, and truly understand what I'm doing. You made a joke, and that means that you, because you have a Bugatti, are the most misogynistic, dangerous man in the world. This is going down a path of absolute insanity. It's not true. None of this is true. I don't hurt people. I don't harm people. I'm genuinely a positive influence.
You are renowned.
I'm renowned
for offensive and controversial.
That's not why I'm renowned. I'm actually renowned. I'm actually renowned for helping young men, because we talk about there's a men's mental health crisis, and we pretend to care that men are upset. But as soon as I discuss men's issues, it's misogynistic. It doesn't have to be gendered. Just because I believe men have a point of view and men have rights and men are allowed to think and believe and act a certain way that helps them internally, that doesn't mean it's anti-female. In fact, I believe it's actually pro-female. I think when a man is true to his influence and true to his essence and he's good within himself, he's a positive influence in the world and he's positive for the women around him.
So
just because I discuss men's issues, people say, oh, you're anti-woman. I'm not anti-woman, I love women.
Why are so many women saying that when their boyfriends start following you,
they're not?
They experience more control.
So many.
They experience
How many?
more abuse.
How many?
Enough.
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 Well, that's the first time I've heard of it. So, in fact...
One is too many.
Oh, of course, yeah. What you expect me to say to that, that's...
Sarcastic and jokes.
No.
That's how you explain the comments you make.
For you to sit down...
Would you like to apologise for any of that?
For you to sit down... for you to sit down... It's fine, no, it's fine, it's easy. For you to sit down and say that one woman said that her boyfriend watched an Andrew Tate video and now he won't do the dishes, or whatever your argument is, and that I'm somehow the worst, most dangerous man in the world because I have a car, it's just disingenuous. And I'm enjoying this interview very much because this shows This shows the world. It's great. It shows the world the truth about the legacy media because they beg me for interviews. They beg me. You have been begging me for months. Please, we need to be relevant.
Give him his chocolate?
Yep.
Okay, well, can you tell him we can give it to him once we're sat down to do the interview?
He wants the chocolate now.
He wants the chocolate now?
Yep.
Okay, because I'm a little bit worried that he's just gonna, you know, brag about us bringing him chocolate.
And then you come here with loaded questions trying to paint a picture of me, which is completely and utterly false. I am a good positive influence for the world. The things I teach men are stoicism, discipline, self-respect, hard work, obeying authority, listening to your fight coach, working hard in school, making as much money as possible in your job. If you actually watch the things I say, if you actually watch my comments about women, I've done long podcasts for hours long about females, talking about protecting for them, providing for them, how I believe women should be treated in a relationship. I've done all of this, but you don't watch any of it, and then you come here and ask me to answer questions I've answered at length thousands of times. The fact that I could do that on a podcast 5 years ago and only got 300 views, now I understand I'm the most influential man on the face of the planet. I would be more careful with certain things I say. That doesn't mean the things I originally said were genuinely out to harm people.
Do you really believe you're the most influential man on the face of the planet?
I'm the most Googled person on the planet.
Do you believe you're the most influential man on the face of the planet?
I'm the most Googled man on the planet.
I think we're done.
Yep. Thanks, Lucy. It was enjoyable. Nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. Lucy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Goodbye. The very polite staff.
Interestingly enough here, we hear his brother Tristan behind the camera saying, "I don't know why you agreed to this interview. I told you they would come in, shake your hand, smile at you, and then read one-line excerpts."
I don't know why you're doing this interview. I don't know why you're doing this interview. I told you. Same as fine. I told you. They come in, they smile, they shake their hands, and then they read one talking line excerpts from 5 minutes. It's fine.
And it gives an interesting insight that maybe the Tates actually thought that the BBC were going to come with a more genuine and human approach. And maybe this interview was designed to reach a broader array of people and not just their fans online. But instead, they just did the same thing that everyone else has tried to do, which is try and paint him in the worst light possible with random excerpts. The whole world had literally been waiting for 5-6 months to hear about their experiences and what they'd gone through and what their thoughts are on the entire situation. And that could have been an incredible interview. And I really wish that he had have done his first interview with somebody outside of the mainstream who actually deserved the opportunity. But I'm sure it's all part of his plan. But there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the state of the mainstream media in 2023. And how many times have we seen this lately? Mainstream media journalists getting absolutely wiped by people who exist outside of the matrix. We've seen Elon do it to another BBC journalist recently. We've seen Jordan Peterson do it time and time again. And it just goes to show, in my opinion, that the most switched on, critically thinking and talented individuals now exist outside of that ecosystem. And that is a good thing for society and the way that information is disseminated as a whole. So with that, guys, make sure to check out my other channels. Links are in the bio. If you guys want to watch another video, click right here. Until next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.